So it's a good thing that the package that we have already incorporates the option for having a flex fuel sensor as well as a turbocharged speed sensor also. We're not going to run the speed sensor yet for the turbocharger, but at least we have that option. And of course, I will definitely connect a back pressure sensor also coming off the turbine side, right coming off between the manifold and the turbo. So we'll have a back pressure. That way we can measure the back pressure coming out of the exhaust system and see what we have if we need to go to a bigger turbine housing or to reduce some of that back pressure, play with cam overlap or what we need to do. But this is the last sensor that I need to wire in. We have all of our other systems somewhat set up. As I mentioned before, this would be our Rife intake manifold temperature sensor. All right, let me get that right. This is our map sensor. I think this was set up for, it just goes all the way up to 70 psi, if I'm not mistaken, 75 psi. This would be our high pressure sensor. This measures up to around 2000 psi. Low pressure sensor that measures 10 bars, so roughly around 145 psi. And we're getting there. And we've already tested our direct injectors. And the last culprit would be this terminal block right here for our port fuel injection. And that is where we're running into a major problem. Major problem, our port fuel injectors. This is my dilemma. The good part is we have 6 additional outputs to run 6 individual port fuel injectors along with our 6 direct injectors. So that's good. We'll be running 12 injectors for our 3.6 liter. The downfall is these outputs are saturated drivers. High switching speed, low current, saturated drivers. They're not peak and hold. And these injectors, the ones that we purchased, they're already in Teddy's car, and I'll just use these for an example. These were slated for my car. These things are nice, still brand new. Kick out some nice fuel. I already machined the intake manifold to fit these dual O-rings and everything. Already set up. So switching to different injectors would be an option, but I already machined the intake manifold to fit these. That poses a problem. and along with that problem, that would mean we would have 6 injectors that we've never flowed any fuel through to test out on that engine that would be collecting more dust or useless for the most part, which means manifold was set up for high flow injectors, but this has saturated drivers and not peak and hold, and trying to run these heavy duty, low resistance injectors, low impedance injectors would definitely cause a problem. This would burn out the drivers in our Motec, and I pretty much did the math. With these things running, it would pretty much pull close to 2.8 to 3 amps. And with these things collapsing, just constantly discharging, you have flyback voltage that we was kind of basically talking about a little bit with the diodes that would be just constantly challenging and pushing beyond the limits of the Motec, because this part wasn't designed for that, and possibly burning up the drivers all in one run. So the great thing is I never hooked up any of these injectors at all on this terminal block to test them out. I only did the direct injectors, and it's good because I didn't get to the stage where I like to sort things out in stages for the most part. Test each one out, look at each circuit, see what the circuit can handle, whether it's circuit set up for 5 volts, whether it's something set up for 12 volts, how I need to wire it, how we need to configure it. Each step instead of just randomly hooking up things and potentially blowing stuff up. So if I just randomly hook this up right out the box, then bingo, we could have did damage. I did the same thing with the ignition coils. I tested those coils rigorously before and didn't even post some of the videos of the tests that I took those cools through initially before we even connected them to the Motec, and those things worked excellent. Actually beyond my expectation, which was good. So enough that I would say would definitely suffice for at least, I would just call it out there and say at least 1,300 horsepower. But back to the injectors. What are my options? Now, we could hook up some ballast resistors to artificially increase the voltage, but the downside to that, the positive, that would protect the circuit in the Motec because it has saturated drivers and not peak and hold. But the downside is that would create a lot of injector dead time, which would make those things very hard to respond, particularly at idle or low RPM. And that doesn't pose to be such a good solution. Or a excellent solution that may or that will work very well, and we can optimize what we already have and purchase, and that solution was already sitting inside my GTI. This is the solution. And I had to pause. I had to pause. I'm so sorry. I had to pause. No, we're not switching from this to that. I know a lot of people's like, what the heck? Are you switching from a Motec to the Fueltech? Because both of these are awesome. That's why I purchased it for my race car. But no, I'm not doing a switcheroo. A peak and hold driver. So that is the solution to still work excellent with these. This peak and hold driver was basically set up to run heavy duty Fueltech injectors, I would say low impedance injectors, pretty much, and they have several different driver boxes. Unfortunately, this pictured driver peak and hold box will not work for our injectors. So what do I have to do? Do I have to purchase 2 of these? Because these are set up to drive 4 outputs, and we have 6, which means I would have to purchase 2 boxes, or something that I had already thought about in the past and used a little extra foresight.
YouTube video out now, man. Like, comment, subscribe.